This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking, the Republican voice of the South Shore. I thought today we would discuss some of the major issues facing the Commonwealth. Some of the legislation that's being passed is just passing legislation for the sake of passing legislation. It accomplishes nothing, and I think a review commission should be established to review all outstanding laws on the books, so people cannot just be charged with crimes that they don't know they're committing. There should be a review of the criminal justice system, rewriting legislation, getting rid of old, outdated laws that have no impact on today. Rules and regulation, we are becoming an over-criminalized society where you can be charged with any crime. When I see these people being charged because they participated in politics and they said they did this or that, in the initial investigation was in collusion with Russia, and they go off and then they interview people with their business contacts, they can find wrongdoing on everybody. Is it an overreach by the government? I would say it is. Now we see the cheating scandals at the universities. That's been going on for years, people buying access to good universities. The universities know what was going on and they did nothing about it. That's where the scandal is. Why didn't these universities step in if they had rogue people on their payrolls and put a stop to it? They knew it was. They were receiving the benefit of the donations. It comes down to one thing. Everything in life circles around one thing: money. And it's the rules and regulations only apply to some people, not all people. There's one standard for the progressives and a different standard for everybody else. The progressives want you to live with more rules and regulations so that they can put anybody in jail. When you look at progressive viewpoints today, just look at Venezuela, anarchy. No, they're not going to be able to pay the civil servants pretty soon. It is a total failure, socialism. The Democratic Party has been taken over by socialists who promote a radical reform of the United States, a reform that won't work. If we become a socialist country, what is the incentive to work? There is none. What is the incentive to go to school? There isn't any. What is the incentive for doctors to become doctors, other than for the good to help mankind? But there isn't any incentive. What it drives the economic factor out of the equation. So therefore, it is a bad thing. We see it repeatedly, socialism creeping in. Should our government six? The Democratic Party is becoming the party of extreme radical elements that are taking it over. You have Elizabeth Warren, who isn't doing well nationwide. She is fifth on the polls running for president. Massachusetts Democrats have never done well when they run for president because they're seen as extremely liberal, and they have not. The last Kerry won the nomination to lose a race that was really unlosable to George Bush the second time. Michael Dukakis ran against George Bush Sr., lost. The only Democratic winner was John Kennedy, and beat everybody they targeted by pouring in huge amounts of money from liberal activists. I don't think that's helpful for democracy. There wasn't one Republican that outspent a Democrat. And the Republicans are said to be the party of the wealth. Well, guess what? It isn't in this state. It's the Democratic liberals that are the party of the wealth now. And are those philosophies, do you want them instilled on your children? Do you want your children to everything to be decided? Do you think there should be Medicare for all? No private insurance? And if you want to put your assets into getting better insurance, should you be denied that right? That's where we're going with the government. Should the government decide, because you're 90, how you spend your money? I don't think so. If you want to help your children when you're 90 and give them money, Elder Affairs now can step in and stop it. Is that something that the average person even knows about? Why do we adopt these crazy rules in Massachusetts? You know, they're full-time. They have nothing better to do than write legislation. We have more laws on the books than ever enforced, and a lot of people don't even know about them. So we are becoming an over-criminalized society where you can charge somebody with some crime regardless if they know they're breaking the law or not. That is wrong. We should have set up a commission to review every statute on the books and dispose of the ones that are not helpful to society, nor are they warranted by society. The legislature should have somebody reviewing what it does. We do not get broad participation in elections anymore, so the voters don't vote these people in or out. But if they knew what they stood for, they'd vote a lot of them out. They don't know what they stand for. It looks like we're going to have a very windy day today. The winds are picked up. I can see looking out, and it looks like it's going to be one of those cold New England days, and even though the temperature's supposed to be warm, but the wind will chill it down. But those are some of the issues that I see that are facing society. The over-criminalization, government interference in things that used to be untouchable, family life. Now the government is more involved in all that. It tries to regulate everything. Those things are not something that is helpful. I think you have to look and see how much involvement you believe the government should have. Locally, we have elections coming up in the city of Brockton and in the towns in April, and in the city of Brockton in November. It elects a new city council and elects a new school committee and a new mayor. And that is all over the state. Change is good, but change is as difficult for challengers to raise adequate funds to get their name known. So you need to go off and you need to fight for change. If you believe in the progressive thing that's taken over the Democratic Party. When I was brought up, socialism was considered a very bad idea. It was considered not something that you wanted to be associated with. Now that's becoming more acceptable. We were always, as a country, a supporter of Israel. Now the polls show, since the socialists have taken over the Democratic Party, the Democrats don't support Israel as much. But it is the Jewish fundraisers that really funded a lot of these progressive candidates, and they've turned on their donors because of their ideas. You have Omar, the congresswoman from Minnesota, that is an extreme embarrassment to the United States. She's anti-Semitic. She constantly is attacking somebody. You have that other woman from Michigan. They are not people who have the same values as Americans. Omar's beliefs are radical, if anything, in her financing questions, because she's a woman and a Muslim, aren't really examined as closely as other people's. So there's a dual standard that the progressives have, one for us and one for them. They do not believe in equal justice. They believe in justice that they dictate. And you hear Elizabeth Warren be free to all? I don't think so. Who's going to pay for it? I mean, who's going to pay for everybody to go to college? It shouldn't be free. you get, when you pay for something, you value it more. And, people struggle to get an education, and now they want it free. Who's going to pay for it when you ask these questions to Bernie Sanders? They never answer it. They talk gibberish, and they refuse to answer any question. Should there be Medicare for all? I don't think so. I don't think we can pay for it. It will cost $8 trillion or $40 trillion. I've seen different figures. Who's going to pay for it? Are we going to increase the tax rate and drive business down and unemployment that happened in Venezuela up? Probably. We simply don't have the resources for these Looney Tune ideas that are being proposed. How do you pay for all this stuff? Think of your own budget. You'd like a new car every year, but can you pay for it? No, you'd like a new house all the time, bigger and better. Can you pay for it? It's not the house, it's the upkeep on the house. And it's the taxes. And the taxes continue to go up. Who's going to be able to pay $14,000 or $15,000 real estate values if the government provides everything?
No one.
Nobody, absolutely.
Nobody.
So the towns will suffer, education will suffer. Radical ideas that don't accomplish anything. They are extreme ideas. Look at these people and the way they talk. Do they give the first thing out of their mouth was impeach the president? What crime did he commit? They didn't answer it. It was impeach the mother. She said, what crime did he commit? Where's the standard of equality in the justice system, equal justice for all? Shouldn't there have been a hearing? Shouldn't there have been proposed crimes? That's what we're talking about. One standard for them, the progressives, and a different standard for mankind. Not good. The Democrats have to wake up and take their party back. These extremists will sink the party down the road. More people will leave the Democratic Party and become unenrolled because they don't believe in the core values that these people are articulating. That's why primaries are important. You better get out and vote in a primary. If you don't vote in the primaries, the papers come out to elect ward and town committees and state committees August 6th. You go out, take those papers, organize your community. It's the rawest form of politics. They determine how nominations are gained. You bet those progressives will be out in force. And I have to say, conservatives don't put their money where their mouth is. The progressives put their money in their mouth on the same line. They will mortgage their future to beat a conservative. And that's not good for democracy. It's poor. So, these are extremist views from these congresswomen, not views that surely don't meet the mainstream of America. And you wonder what's wrong with the voters in Minnesota. Maybe they didn't understand that this woman was nuts when they elected her, and maybe she won't get reelected. But surely she's, for a freshman to be censured almost, is beyond belief. She doesn't seem to understand the institution which she was elected for. She has an anti-American attitude. She doesn't like our foreign policy. She doesn't like America. So why is she here? We will be taking a short break to hear from our sponsors, and this is Larry Novak, the Republican voice of the South Shore. This is Larry Novak. I'm back with Politically Speaking, the Republican voice of the South Shore. I have a few announcements that people have asked me to make on the show today. The Republican City Committee of Brockton will be holding its annual fundraiser June 19th from 7 to 9 at Thorny Lee Country Club. Tickets may be purchased by calling Alan Green at 508-584-2258. They're $100 a person. The proceeds of the event will go to help Donald Trump buy signs and bumper bumper stickers, and it will be given out in the city of Brockton in T-shirts. So if you're interested in supporting the president, call Alan Green at 508-584-2258, and the tickets will go to, the proceeds of the event will go to help the president's reelection effort with an independent expenditure. This is Larry Novak. That will be June 19th at Thorny Lee Country Club. Furthermore, the Brockton City Committee will be meeting in the month of May to hear speakers discussing issues of relevant issues at the Holiday Inn. The day will be announced shortly. And if you are interested in submitting a nomination for the man of the century to the Republican Party, the person who's done the most for the Republican Party in the city of Brockton and statewide, contact Alan Green at 508-584-2258. That is, again, if you have nominations you'd like to submit, contact Alan Green at 508-584-2258. Now, Alan Green is a candidate for school committee against Mark DiAugustino, the incumbent school committee man. Both are Republicans. They're running against one another in the Ward 3 area. Mr. Green is shortly to announce his candidacy, at least he claims that, and he will be also going out to reorganize Ward 3 in the summer, this summer, when the papers become available. If you have interest in joining the Ward 3 committee, contact Mr. Green at 508-584-2258. Now, there was a lot of discussion a few weeks ago when I did the show about bank services. We did ask the Bank of America to send a representative. We never heard back from them to discuss the lack of service that the bank provides in a given area. They declined to do that. They say they provide outstanding service to the area, even though as people complained all over the area about the poor service they receive from the Bank of America. I have a story to tell about the bank. There's been a woman that was a customer, she said, for 60 years, and she turned over her affairs to her children, and they started taking money out to pay for AIDS. Well, the bank reported them to the elderly abuse hotline. Their own bank reported them to the elderly abuse hotline. Well, the money belongs to that family. After I told the woman, she agreed, not to the bank. The bank didn't want them spending the money on the woman's upkeep. Shame, shame on the Bank of America. It should be, the citizens should demand that the elected officials investigate the Bank of America. When it's turning its own customers in with no proof just so that they can manage their money, shame on them. It is a bunch of thugs that run the bank. Thugs that need to be investigated. People that are bullies. They should be investigated by the authorities. And where is the banking commissioner? Why isn't he acting in a proper manner? Because everybody is connected to everybody, and they don't want to rock the boats. Nobody wants to do what they're supposed to do anymore. But anybody that banks with the Bank of America should be ashamed of themselves, picking on elderly people and abusing their position of trust. They are a bunch of crooks. That Bank of Boston attitude has permeated for years where they think they were better than everybody else. They always look their nose down on everybody. They don't participate in the communities. They take. It's time to tell it like it is. And the bank is really a poorly run institution. And I don't agree with Elizabeth Warren on much, but she's right. Break the Bank of America up.
Or walk.
Lock it down.
Take your money out and go somewhere else.
But she will even impose them. She wants the directors removed and the executive management removed.
It's all good and well, but it's always something more with her. You know what I mean? It's always saying you give, okay, that's a good idea, but then there's 15 other things that you don't agree.
But I don't agree with her much, but on that I agree with her about.
I mean, if she just went with that.
You can't tell me one thing the Bank of America has done in Taunton to make this a better community.
I don't know. I don't have them, you know.
They don't lend hardly in Taunton. It's
on their driveway.
But they don't lend money in Taunton. Yeah. They lend it in their wealthy areas. They take the proceeds from their deposits and spend it in other areas. What does it do for the city of Taunton? Nothing. They just take. And their attitude is that they're better than everybody. You know what? It is a privilege and not a right to run a bank. And I say to the public, if you have stories like that, take it to the banking commissioner. If enough people complain, they will put pressure on the banking commissioner to act, and then they'll act in a positive manner.
So do you think they're that arrogant where if everyone just takes their money out, they want to change their ways?
Ask everybody what they think of the Bank of America. I did it one day after we had that last show, and they all have all negative attitudes. There wasn't one positive person that said they liked the bank.
I wonder if any of those people still had them, or they just went somewhere else. You can go somewhere else, you know.
It's a hassle to change banks. The best thing that could happen is the bank be broken up. In that, when there were local controls of banks, when there was, local banks in Brockton and local banks in Taunton and local banks, they did more for the community. They understood the community better. They were there to assist the community. How much money do they give to the softball league in Taunton? How much do they give to helping this Coyle Cassidy? How much do they give to helping any local thing? How much do they give to Massasoit to sponsor a group? They don't do anything for anybody.
So if you said the banks were more local, then it'd be more community oriented because they don't really care about Taunton. No, they don't care.
They don't care. Bank America cares about one thing: the $25 million the chief executive officer is making. That's all he cares about. I think it's 27 is what he was paid though.
$15 million?
No, he's $27 million in salary last year. Does anybody think he's worth $27 million? When you go in there are long lines. The branch managers have no authority, can't do anything. They have to call an 800 number to get permission to do anything. Terrible bank. It has always been a terrible bank. And, the last time when we mentioned this at the end of the show, I got a lot of calls about how terrible the service was and how terrible they are. I can't name one thing locally they do for any community.
There's one thing I don't understand about as far as what they get paid. I don't believe in the government saying he shouldn't get that money or whatever, or we should tax him more.
But that isn't his money; it's stockholders' money. Right. It should go back to the stockholders.
Why is the bank paying him so much money? You know what I mean? It just opens a whole Pandora's box as far as.
And where are the directors? Why is he compensated at that level? Why doesn't it go to the stockholders who buy stock and invest in that company?
Right.
They're ripping off the stockholders. It's a license to steal. And that's all they're doing. They're stealing stockholders' assets and paying him that kind of money.
That's crazy money.
You know what? Try to find a phone number to call his office. Not listed.
No.
Try to find a phone number for the executive offices of the Bank of America. Not listed.
Where is their head?
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
And you can't get anybody on the phone, and they never call you back.
No, they're not. Why would they?
They don't. They're arrogant.
Right.
It's time to break the bank up and return it to local control. A bank that invests in this city and invests in the city of Brockton, that takes the assets, the people's hard-earned money, and then doesn't even invest in the community they live in. How much money do you think they put in the town of Middleborough?
You figure if the banks...
No, how much money do you think they donate in the town of Middleborough?
Zero.
You know, when I asked one of them to come on the show at their executive office, we didn't even get a call back. They're that arrogant that they don't think they have to.
Right.
I mean, I had a friend that was worth millions and millions of dollars. He couldn't get through to anybody on the phone. Error on his account. Couldn't get anybody on the phone.
Right.
An arrogant bank that should be broken up.
You get all those calls from those people, then obviously that's
That tells you. And when you ask what's the worst bank in the United States? Bank of America.
But people keep them. Why don't they just pull the money out?
Because
Why
people
just block?
they just don't. They don't like change, and
But they like to continue to get ripped off and
right.
bad service.
And the fees that they charge, they're always ripping off the fees, upping the fees. Where is the banking commissioner? Why does he issue regulations to require them to do things? I mean, no, I don't. They don't want to get into it. They don't want to create controversy because he probably is going to go to work for the Bank of America when he leaves the banking commission office. It's an absolute disgrace. And the bank should be broken up. It should be broken back. Years ago, you could only be a bank in your given state. You could have offices in your given state only. So it was Bank Boston. It was only in Boston area. They couldn't do that, so then they started investing in South America. And boy, did they take a bath in South America. They lost all kinds of money because the Spanish people quickly realized they were not good to deal with. They are not a bank that's customer friendly. They are not a bank that services customer well. They need to be broken up. The bank needs to be taken down. Now Chase redlining whole communities. And they're probably doing it now, just not in written policy, but behind the scenes. There needs, and they just entered into a $100 million settlement with the federal government, I read. Another bunch of crooks, the bank. But, God help if a customer did something wrong, but they can violate the law and they don't think anything of it. They have to pay a $100 million fine on something. That's what it is. They have it's a felon bank.
If you think the money came out of the CEO's pocket, he'd really make things work good.
Well, I mean, the bank doesn't work. Their rules and regulations are going to kill it. Any company that's heavily regulated by internally ends up failing in the end. The Bank of America will eventually fail. It will be sold. It won't be able to compete. They're not able to turn around things quick enough. The thing, it's too big to fail. It shouldn't be the standard. Let them go down the tubes. Once the consumers lose the interest in them, let it go.
I feel the consumers, if you're getting bad goods and services, why go with that company? See, I don't. I mean, I'm a firm believer. I'm on principle. If I don't like something,
but you're the exception. A lot of people, when they get older, don't like change. They don't want the hassle open a new account.
And they're not going to make it easy for you, too, right? Trying to make it.
Right. They're going to give you a hard time about it.
And a lot of people are timid.
The Bank of America thinks that their money, the other people's money, belongs to them. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the people that put it in there.
So if an older woman came into the bank and said, I want to move my money, they might intimidate her. They might scare her a little bit.
And where are the regulators? Why aren't they stepping in? Why don't they regulate? I don't agree with Donald Trump on everything, but on that type of stuff, I do agree with him. And Elizabeth Warren. It's time to break them up. Break the Bank of America up. Make it back to a local bank in each state and no further. The Glass-Steagall Act, when they overturned that regulation and allowed them to become national banks, has not been helpful. It's poor legislation. It should be back where they have to participate in their community. You look around, what do all these national banks do for anybody? What do they do in the community? Do they invest? Do they build? No. Do they open new offices? No. Do they service their constituent? No. You go in there and you serve in line for 20 minutes while somebody waits on you with an attitude. And it's you're putting your money in. No, they're not helpful. You call them up, they don't get back to you. They give you a song and a dance. It's a bank whose time has seen its best days are behind it. It's time to break it up. They don't even return press inquiries anymore. The only way it's going to be affected if people go to stockholders meetings and demand change. Photo directors, they put their slated directors in that they recommend. They recommend it so that the chief executive officer can make $25 million. Why doesn't the $25 million go to stockholders who have invested their money to keep the business going? No way. It goes into the pockets of the executives of the Bank of America. Wells Fargo on the way down. Bank of America will be the next one to fall. Their attitude is beyond belief. They are a criminal bank. They pay one fine after another, and they're always settling lawsuits.
Maybe it's more cheaper for them to do that, just to settle lawsuits and just continue the way they're continuing. Because at the end of the day, they're probably making more money than...
That's right. Ripping off the public.
Yeah.
They're
Pay a few fines, but continue to rip them off. And
rip the public off. Increase the fees. I need money.
Not everyone's going to complain. So,
all right, $25 million for chief executive officers. They don't even have a phone listed to them to call the corporate office. There's no phone in any directory anymore. What do they have to hide? Why aren't they listed? Why do they not have a phone number listed to them?
I always think when I call the banks and they put you on hold or whatever, and it's like they'll put you on some empty building somewhere and some phone line no one ever pick up. It's just I always have that in the back of my mind that they'll never pick up you.
I called the other day for something on my uncle's account that I have power of attorney. I was on the phone for 2 hours to get a person. Dave got my uncle's money just to get them on the phone to do something. 2 hours.
That's insane.
It's crazy, and they don't answer. And then you swapped over to some company in India half the time. You know.
Put you on hold for 2 hours.
2 hours. I timed it. Exactly 2 hours. So
Do you think someone's going to pick up after an hour? I mean,
I just put it on speakerphone and didn't watch the movie, and they finally came on. They apologized for the long delay.
Long delay is 10 minutes, in my opinion.
Why isn't the banking commissioner requiring them to answer the lines? Why isn't the banking commissioner requiring them with guidelines? These are people that abuse their authority and they're required to be regulated.
I found this on the Bank of America corporate office.
It's a 1-800 number.
There's a number. It's this is not a customer support number, but it's the phone number for the Bank of America corporate office, which would be, is it okay if I give it on the air?
Yeah, go ahead.
1-704-386-5681.
And if you call the number, it's probably disconnected. Call the number and see if it's still there. They disconnect the phones all the time.
Well, it's Saturday, so...
But it will ring if it's still there, and he won't get anybody. The Bank of America should be broken up, people. It's time, and I agree, it's not a left-wing or right-wing issue. It's that they do not service the public. And the public market, there was such a limited amount of supplies now of banks, where there used to be on every corner. There aren't many local banks left. They, what bank in Middleborough Trust is gone? What is the local bank? There isn't a Middleborough bank. No. There's no Brockton Bank. Is there a local bank in Taunton? I don't know.
Yep.
which is the local bank. Mechanics. And I'm sure they're more, they understand the community more, they respond to the needs of the community more. But when you look around, you just don't find banks that are responsive anymore. Most of them don't lend or give to donations to the youth. I remember talking to somebody in the Catholic Church, and they were saying how they had banked with, and I'm not going to, it was probably Bank of America, for years, and what a terrible bank it was when they got in trouble to deal with. So everybody should get it. They're not your friends. They don't do anything for you. Get out of the bank. Move your money. It is not a good thing. Getting back to local politics after my essay, we have the August 6th, the town and ward committee election papers are due, and state committee papers. Why is that important? Everybody asks me that after the show. It's the rawest form of politics. Those people determine who gets nominations for Democrat and Republican, and for who serves on the party apparatus to get people involved in the political party. For years, the Massachusetts Republican Party was always trying to exclude people, and that's why it's in the minority party. You have to open your doors. You have to include everybody. You want to encourage them. And I saw the legislation, and I think it will pass, where anybody that's been convicted of a crime will be able to vote again. And it's going to be mandated. I saw a poll where 90% of the public agrees with it, that they should be allowed to vote. In Massachusetts, always allowed them to vote, and I do agree with that. It's otherwise, the exclusivity of the vote, the ballot box doesn't count. This is a democracy. Everybody should have the right to vote. I think that part of some of the legislation was good. Some of it's bad. I don't think the court will stand for campaign finance limits. They've struck them all down. It would need a constitutional amendment. And the progressives are the ones that have pumped all the money into these races. They're fighters. They believe in something, they will go down the tubes. They will fight to the last thing. We have elections. That is why those elections are important. You need in the city of Brockton to come up with 245 Democrats and Republicans to fill those committees up. The Democratic Party in the city has been on the decline with filling them up. The Republicans did terrible the last election under the former leadership. They just didn't do their work. You got to go out. It takes a summer to do it. It's a lot of work to go visit 245 people. You really got to go visit 300 and convince them to do it. But that's what you have to do. It's the rebirth of a political party in the state. It's their new period to get new blood in. So people should go out and organize. Deadwood should be dropped. People that haven't participated, and they should not be asked to rejoin those committees. The state committee determines the convention and how the people for the Republican National Committee are elected and how statewide offices get nominations. Those offices should be seriously contested. It is a good thing to have a serious fight for them, and hopefully we'll see that done. And we will see that when you have 245 people on a committee, it encourages people to run for office because there's support there to help them. So if somebody comes to your door and asks you to join, think about it. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to breed competition between two slates, and the better slate's going to win. And these are the rawest form of politics, and we need to encourage people to join, because being an unenrolled voter, you can vote in either primary, but to get on the ballot, you have to get through the state conventions. So unenrolled voters really have no say in who's determined to be the nominee. And that's not good. And we are heading towards a period where there are more unenrolled voters than Democrats or Republicans in this state. And we will probably hit 60%. That means they're not really tuned into either political party. But let me say this, the institution, unless there's a major scandal, favors the Democratic Party because they're in office right now. So you need to be able to outraise whoever you're going to run against and encourage to your political discourse in that area. Hopefully we will see a lot of people running for those positions and that they'll be highly contested. And that new blood will come in. Old blood that is tired will move out. And it's the rebirth, it's as I call it, and hopefully we'll get that done. And if you want to join the Republican City Committee, call Alan Green at 508-584-2258. That's, again, you can call Alan Green to join at 508-584-2258. Or you could email me in the city of Brockton, Lawrence, LAWRENCE, period, P period, Novak, Novak, at gmail.com. This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking, the Republican voice of the South Shore. I do want to discuss now in some of the local races that will be coming up. I think we have a selectmen's race in Middleborough, and then it will end up nobody will be paying the taxes because they can't afford to pay them, and then the city will end up with more problems. It's a thing. And you should examine the city council candidates. What's their background? What have they done? Have they written a book? Have they been involved in politics? Have they been involved in the community? It's not about just name ID. It should be about what they've accomplished in their lives. Do they run a business? Do they have business sense? Have they practiced law? The quality of the candidates is lacking in the cities lately, and especially in the city of Brockton. Less educated candidates are running for office. They don't have the broad exposure that other people had in the past and understood the problems they would face. They had limited vision as to the need of the community. Next week, we will be back on to discuss the political issues of the day. This has been Larry Novak. I tried to bring up and highlight today some of the areas of concern and get people involved in the political process. Hopefully, we will continue articulating change, continue to fight for a healthy two-party system in the Commonwealth, continue to point the shortcomings of our elected officials, and I will go in. Our state committee man on the Republican side has never been to the city of Brockton once in 4 years. That's where Brockton represents 52% of the vote. What a wonderful elected official we have. He will attack anybody who runs against him. He's an office seeker. I don't think he's employed. He says he's disabled now, but he can run for every office that comes up and stays home and doesn't go to work.
Sounds like a politician to me.
Right, and enjoys the fruits of his victory. This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. I look forward to hearing from you next week.
I just want to mention a little today in history. 1915, USA, the Federal Trade Commission. On this day in 1915, the Federal Trade Commission was organized following the Federal Trade Commission Act in 1914. Its principal mission is the promotion of consumer protection and the elimination and prevention of what regulators perceive to be anti-competitive business practices. One of its roles is to enforce antitrust laws.